Hello, everyone. Welcome to Kat's Novel Adventures, as well as to Books, Ink, and Paper. We are here. I'm Kat, and this is Laurie, and we are here today to chat about our group read for the Mardi Gras Readathon, which is New Orleans Mourning.
Yeah, I was I'm much different than yours.
Yes, that's mine.
I like yours though.
Yeah. See, I kind of like yours better because it does have the skyline. Or the scape or whatever.
Yeah.
Mine. I don't know if mine is supposed to be like on a balcony.
Maybe. Maybe on the balcony on Tolliver's balcony.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I was thinking about. But we are here to discuss this book and just to see what everyone thought and kind of get a feel for if this was a good read or not, I guess.
I know. Yeah.
So let's see. We have Leslie from Books, Gers, and Purrs in our chat. And we also have Liz. Hello, Liz. I know Liz read the book, and she actually, I think, listened to it on CD from the library.
Oh, fun.
Because I think originally, correct me if I'm wrong, Liz, didn't they give it to you on cassette tape first? That just goes to show you, like, how old this book is. It was published, my edition was published February of 1990.
Yeah,
I mean, it says copyright 1990, but I want to say maybe in February was my copy or whatever, or maybe that was all the copies. But there are different versions out there. The copy that I wanted to get had the cover of Chauncey as Rex, the King of Rex. She's saying, yep, I upgraded from cassette to CD.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious.
I think that is crazy, but at least she listened to it. So I really am trying to, I just can't wait to hear what people's thoughts are about, the story, because I have my likes and I have some dislikes and I have some surprises and things that I'm not super surprised about because of when it was written, but we shall see. Ooh, it looks like, Laurie, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. It looks like you're frozen.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think I'm frozen. I don't know what to do about that. Any ideas? Should I stop my camera and start it again?
No, I don't know. I don't know if it will automatically do that or it's up to you. Yeah, it's up to you if you want to try it or not.
I have the round circle of colors is what I have now.
The circle of doom, huh?
Well, hopefully not, but yeah. I will say I can't see the chat, so I could see only up to I guess when I froze, maybe only up to when I can't remember her first name now. Said Liz.
Oh, about upgrading. Well, that's where we stopped. That's our last comment.
Okay. Yeah. Well. Oh, can I leave and come back, or will that mess everything up?
Well, I mean, you can. I mean, this is what happens, my friends, when you are on live.
No kidding. Let me see if I'm live on Facebook. That might.
Technology is wonderful when it works, but when it does not work, it's a snafu.
That is true. And I think I'm live on Facebook, but I'm frozen for sure. Okay. I mean, on YouTube. Let me leave and come back.
Okay. Go ahead and do that. Okay. So, yes, Jackie is saying, refresh the browser. Hello, Jackie. Welcome.
Hi, Jackie. It won't even let me do that with this circle. Isn't that funny? Oh, this is just.
Oh my goodness. Well, we have the gremlins of Mardi Gras out and about.
They are today. All right. Well,
at least we can hear you. And the good news is you're smiling on your frozen.
I don't look horrible. Not great.
No, you don't have like stink eye. You're not throwing a shade. So All is well, all is well. So
Yeah.
anyway, I want to know if everyone here in the chat pretty much has read the book, because we are going to have some spoilers. We are going to
Yeah.
get to spoilers, but I will just say I'll start with some likes while Laurie's troubleshooting there. I actually liked the little prologue at the beginning that kind of set the scene for Mardi Gras and kind of gave the backstory of Comus and Rex. Because a person that is not familiar with Mardi Gras, I think that's a kind of a good little, I don't know, like an appetizer to the main course, which is the overall novel, and kind of gives a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of backstory. So I did like that prologue. I thought that was good. And then I also love the fact that it was set in New Orleans, because I am from that area. I grew up on the South Shore, which I grew up in a little town in Jefferson Parish called River Ridge, and it's maybe 20 minutes away from New Orleans. So I'm familiar with doing a lot of things in the city. I've been to Mardi Gras, not necessarily in New Orleans on Mardi Gras Day, but I have been to New Orleans parades like Bacchus and Endymion. Um, but mostly my family, we would go to oh, she's coming back. Let's add her on. You're
Yeah.
there. Okay, so I'm going to remove the other one.
All right. It just booted me right out all of a sudden.
Oh, well, it was because it was circling.
Yeah.
Basically, I was letting everyone in our chat know that what I was liking was the prologue. I like the fact that
Mm-hmm.
I kind of set the stage, kind of like an appetizer before the main course. So people who are not familiar with Mardi Gras kind of knew what was, what to kind of expect, as far as like it's such a big deal, Rex especially, and Mardi Gras kind of knew what was,
Sorry.
what to kind of expect.
I had to turn it on to make sure it was working. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
We're done now.
And then also the fact that it's set in New Orleans. And I was just explaining to everybody that I've never been to Mardi Gras in New Orleans on Mardi Gras Day, but I've been to like Endymion and Bacchus, to different Mardi Gras parades in New Orleans. But on Mardi Gras Day, generally we went to Metairie and would go with all the truck floats, August and Elks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So how about you, Laurie? I know you've gone more so on Mardi Gras Day because you've been to Zulu.
Yeah, I have been to Zulu. That's the only one I've been on Mardi Gras Day. And I've been to Endymion and Bacchus, which are not on Mardi Gras Day. And I have never been to Muses, which is one that I really want to do, but I didn't have I had class this year, so I couldn't, I was teaching, so I couldn't go Thursday night. But I have friends who ride in Muses. And so my dream is one of these days I'll get to go and I'll catch a shoe, which is the only reason why you go.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Well,
So it's hectic though on Mardi Gras Day. It's super hectic. I mean, I think it's a kind of a bucket list thing for a lot of people, and I get that. I think it was for me too, but it's a lot. Yeah.
Right. Well, and my husband has been on Mardi Gras Day, and he's been down by Bourbon Street when all the stuff happens, and he is like, you will not like being down there. I don't like the too much crowding. I don't like to be like hemmed in, and that's what I kind of feel like I'd be hemmed in. I don't want people jostling me and all that kind of stuff. So that doesn't appeal to me, because you can kind of get that even when you're out like in Metairie. I mean, it depends on where you go. Actually.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So Leslie said, I haven't read the book, but I don't mind being spoiled. Okay, that's good. And then Jackie did read the book, and I too like the prologue. Very good. And I do know that Liz also. So I'm going to go ahead and put the spoiler banner on just in case somebody comes in and I forget. Because I will forget, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I love that it was set in New Orleans. I think it was just wonderful. I don't know if I've ever really read a book that was set in New Orleans that I can think of off the bat. I mean, I've read books that have been set in Louisiana, but not necessarily around Mardi Gras or, talking about that. I did like that the murder happened quickly and that it was actually during Rex.
Yeah,
And
I did
that
too.
literally it could have been the perfect murder if it wasn't for our, filmmaker, Steve.
Yes, indeed. I know. And that took a while
Because
to
if
come back
Steve wouldn't
around,
have
didn't
been
it?
there and he wouldn't have been standing by Skip, all of that stuff would not have transpired. But I loved the fact that it happened during the time. It happened pretty quickly. I mean, you had, we were introduced to Biddy first
Yeah,
and what
yeah.
was going on with that. But I love that it happened pretty quickly. I loved the fact that it was a Dolly Parton, somebody in costume as Dolly Parton. That was very intriguing to me.
It was to me too. Uh-huh.
And because the person being in costume really kept you guessing,
Yeah,
really almost till the end, I
yeah,
have to say.
yeah.
Hello, Alicia. Just popping in to say hello. Hello. We appreciate you being here.
We're happier.
And Jackie said, we lived in Baton Rouge in a previous life, hubby in grad school at LSU. Awesome. I've been to Mardi Gras, New Orleans, Bacchus, August, and Rex. I've also been to the Spanish Town Parade in Baton Rouge.
Oh, oh,
Excellent. So, yes, for you, it must have had, brings memories back. And then also, you can kind of tell if it was like authentic. It's you could tell that Julie Smith lived in New Orleans
yeah.
because of her references. There were so many things she talked about that was like, oh yeah, somebody was wearing a UNO sweatshirt, and the
Mhm.
streets that they were on, and the food
The
that they
church
were
that they
eating.
went to, and
Yes,
yeah,
the
when they
church
went
that
to
they
church.
went to.
Yeah,
Going by the river, the
yeah.
ferry, going
The
to
theory,
Algiers.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Yeah, I
know.
said in your sprints the other night in the chat, but I really, I'll say this here in case people weren't in the sprints the other night. It did feel like a love letter to New Orleans. It felt like she
Mhm.
was just sort of hitting everything she possibly could in order to show kind of the eclectic spirit of that city, and the Mardi Gras theme too really
Mhm.
was, I mean, she really honored so many things in New Orleans that people, yeah, for Jackie. I know. It was really, that was probably my favorite part about it, is the setting and the way she
Mhm.
connected those things throughout. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, did you have any other likes besides setting? I mean,
So
anything
I did
else?
like the character. So the characters were somewhat unlikable, many of them, right? But I thought she developed them pretty well. Certainly, the
Mhm.
family members and the relationships and some of the history there was really well developed. And Marcel and Henry and Biddy and a little bit of Chauncey too. But of course, we knew less about him because that was probably part of the, that we needed to know more about him as time went on. And of course, Skip and her relationship with Steve. I liked sort of
Mhm.
how that happened, and how that connection was made. Um, so yeah, I liked the way that the characters were sort of revealed to us. I really was just sort of, I don't know what the word is. I was really disappointed, I guess, in the way her fellow police officers treated her. That, and you and I
Yes.
chatted about that offline while we were reading it. That was really hard for me, and just the way that people. And I know, again, it was set in the '90s, so we'll say there was a lot less respect for a lot of things, I guess, and not that it was disrespectful, but there were a lot of ways in which people were talking about race and ethnicity, and about homosexuality, and about her weight. I mean, it was like
Yes.
constantly
Oh my gosh,
somebody was
yes.
talking about her weight, and I was just like, this is just so. But again, I had to keep remembering, this wasn't written in 2024. This was written somewhere else, some other
Well,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things I have to say. Out of all of the characters, I really did love Skip. I know
Hmm.
that she was a little rough around the edges, and she
Sure,
was
sure.
so
Yeah,
flawed,
yeah,
especially doing some ill activities. And she is supposed to be a police officer.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
she is a police officer. She's not
yeah.
trying to be one, but she actually. It was like it just showed you that she's human.
She's very
She
human. Yeah,
has
yeah.
you know, flaws. I mean, we
Yeah.
can't think that just because you're a certain profession
Yeah.
that you're not going to, have some flaws. But for the most part, even though she liked to partake a little bit with her little
Yeah.
marijuana, and
Yeah.
she liked to drink, and she was, kind of like, I don't know, out there with the guy at the bar or whatever.
Yeah.
You knew she kind of had like a little relationship with him, even though he was married. I
Yeah.
think, I, she had a moral compass, despite all of that.
Yeah.
And I just liked her. I liked the fact that she went against the grain with her family, who was very wealthy. Like, even though they used her because she was, in that world at
Yeah.
one time, because she knew these people from school, I just
Yeah.
kind of felt like, I don't know, I just felt like I just liked her. I'll
Mm-hmm.
be honest. I like Skip Langdon. I just
Yeah.
thought she was she just, I don't know, down to earth, and she wanted to do a good job,
Yeah.
and
She had a good heart.
she
Yeah.
really could hold her own against those two police officers she was assigned to be with.
Yeah.
And that O'Rourke guy, he and
Oh,
Henry, all I can say is Julie Smith did a great job with making you despise them, because Henry was disgusting, in my
he
opinion.
really was. He was
Awful,
so awful. I know.
awful. And O'Rourke, I'm like, why are you even a policeman? Like, I
I
don't care
mean,
that you're having personal problems. You hate women.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I don't like you at all. You hate women.
Exactly.
And I
Yeah.
hated that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I suppose in the 90s, that was very prevalent and probably very prevalent in New Orleans. And,
Oh, I would think so, because I bet you in the 90s you didn't have as many female cops that you have today. And if
certain
you
of
did
it.
have female cops, you were exactly where Skip was, being a beat cop or being a
Yeah.
cop that had to work a detail on Mardi Gras Day. You were
Yeah.
not given a big case. The only reason Skip even got to be on this case, was because she had a connection.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna say hello to Zach. Hello, Zach. We are talking our New Orleans Mourning. This was our group read for Mardi Gras, our Mardi Gras Readathon. You're
Yeah.
reading Odyssey by Homer, and I'm so glad you're doing that for Folklore February. The Odyssey is fantastic, I will say.
Yeah.
And hello, Courtney. How are you? Welcome, welcome. And Jackie said, I thought the author allowed too much freedom as she investigated the murder.
Mm. In what way? You mean freedom, Jackie? You mean freedom to find things and speak to people and really just kind of take charge of things, or
Yes. Tell us a little more, Jackie,
yeah,
about what
tell us a
you
little
mean
bit
by
more,
that.
or freedom to smoke pot and do other things.
Right, drink and party and all that kind of stuff. But I
I
mean,
know.
that is a good point.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I will say, if I had to, besides some of the sexism, the racism, like how sexual orientation was handled, like view of women on the police force, that kind of stuff, the disrespect. Um, I I kind of compartmentalize that part. I'm not saying it's okay, not by
Right.
any stretch of the imagination.
Right. Yeah.
But it's the same thing like when I read Stephen King's books from the 80s or
I was going to
90s.
say it's the period of
Um,
time in which
it's
she
not
wrote
that
it.
it's
Yeah.
acceptable, and I don't think the author is saying it's acceptable.
No.
But I think there was even a point where, Laurie, you said you wonder if she had some kind of a issue with police in her life,
Yes.
because like a bad experience because of
Yeah.
the way she portrayed them.
It's
She put
possible.
herself in
Yeah.
danger too often. She
Oh,
entered the
yeah.
apartment without a warrant when
Oh,
she and
yeah.
Steve climbed in through the window. I do. But I wonder if she did, only because I think this is another character flaw.
Yeah.
She was so hell bent on getting the the accolades, or whatever you want to say, for solving the mystery
Yeah,
or
that's
solving the murder. I think she was so afraid that giving them any kind of information was going to take away and they were going to get credit for it. Now, as we
Yeah.
know, even though at the end she does get credit for it, what ends up happening at the end is such, I was just like, oh my God, I can't even believe that happened.
I know.
But then after the shock and the anger that I felt alongside Skip,
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I surprised?
Yeah.
Why am I surprised? I mean, who are we talking about? We're talking about the wealthy people in New Orleans with money and
Yeah.
influence. I mean,
Yeah. I was a little bit like, is this how it ended? Like I went back and read again, like I had missed something. I was like, what just happened?
so I think you know what Jackie is saying about taking these risks and everything. I
Yeah.
think part of it is because she didn't want to lose it, because O'Rourke and Tarantino, whatever his name
Yeah,
was,
it was
I
Tarantino.
think they were so good about wanting to get that information, but also too, don't you think if they had any inclination that there was a connection with the Santamont family, that they would have done something to Skip? I was so worried about that. I
I
was
was,
worried that maybe they're not really on the up and up. Maybe they're trying to
yeah,
find out, so whatever that's found out, that they could go ahead and squelch it. Like,
yeah,
honestly, Skip had to be more careful than she was. So I will say she did put herself in danger a lot, and she could have gone missing like LaBelle. Honestly,
yeah.
I think.
She could have. I know, and that part really that made me very, very sad. That whole story.
Yes.
About the child and about the childhood with, and just, several of those stories. It was just like the way that the children were treated differently, by the dad and
Yes.
Michelle's perception, she was treated differently by her mom, which I mean does happen sometimes. One parent,
Yeah.
I've known friends that have had that issue and one parent has bonded differently with the other, and those things happen all the time. But yeah, I think that part too was it was difficult for me. I would say there were several like moments where I was just like, oh, this just hurts my heart, and I think that
Yes.
was.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
mean,
Yes.
and some of it was because of the time period and how things went then, obviously, and then some of it was just because, yeah, the way that these people had.
Well, a lot of it's
Yeah,
money. It all
yeah,
stems
money.
from
I know.
money.
Yeah,
It stems from
exactly.
influence. It's political.
Absolutely.
And then
Absolutely.
talking about those people, I mean, you got Biddy Santamont,
Oh, I know.
you know, and
I've been through this.
even though she, I don't know, there's something about her that even though she was an alcoholic and she played a part in what happened to LaBelle, I was really shocked that she didn't try to keep tabs on LaBelle more than what
All
she
those
did, because
years.
she
Me
knew.
too. Me too. Yeah.
Because I think that LaBelle, and I'm also surprised that they didn't do better with putting her into a home that was a little bit more affluent,
Yeah.
because she could have. I mean,
They
not
could have.
saying that
They
the
had
woman that
money.
took her wasn't a good enough mom, but you would think if you wanted to hush something up like that, first of all, I would have gotten her out of New Orleans. Like, she wouldn't
Exactly.
have even been in the city. We would have
Exactly.
found a family in
Yeah.
Savannah or
Yeah.
something with
Exactly. Yeah.
affluence, because
Yeah.
you would never want what happened to come back on you like that. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And I
I
mean,
do. Yeah.
Chauncey, first of all, you know, talking about him, Chauncey, was just worried about his, making money.
His
The only
reputation.
reason he
Yeah.
married Biddy was to have a position.
Yeah.
The fact that he denied where he came from,
Yeah.
and you know what I'm saying? And that
Yeah.
that to me was sad. It was almost like, why don't you take pride in yourself?
Yeah.
Considering that even though his mom and dad were stern, they didn't seem like they didn't provide, for him. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hello, Jordan. It's me. So where do I join? Where is the alcohol? We
I
are
was looking at
discussing, George, we're discussing New Orleans Mourning by Julie Smith. This was the book we read for our group read. So that's what we're talking about. So Biddy was an alcoholic. She became an alcoholic because she was basically forced to give her child away. And, but she could have kept tabs. And also, too,
And he
in
could
my
have done
opinion,
more too than he did.
yeah,
He really could have done more than he did. Yeah.
I think Chauncey and Biddy, I think Biddy married for love, although she probably, also wanted to get away.
Maybe,
But I
yeah.
think she could have gotten away if she would have married Tolliver,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
she fell in love with Chauncey. So I do think initially she did fall in love with him and she loved him. I think things changed after Helene, who became LaBelle.
Yeah.
But Chauncey, I don't know. I didn't like him. I think he made terrible choices. The fact that he was embarrassed from where he came from. And then, of course, he's so prejudiced because he's prejudiced against his own self.
Yeah. Yeah.
And talking about Henry, he's prejudiced against Henry because Henry was gay.
Yeah.
Which Henry to me was so god awful. I
He was
don't
pretty
use the
awful.
word
Yeah.
hate hardly at all, but I
Yeah.
hated him.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Me too. You know what he reminded me of? I will say this weird correlation I had when I was reading it. When he was it was probably around, maybe not even the whole middle of the book, but it was early on in the book where he was dressing up and he was, putting makeup on or something. I don't remember.
Yes.
It reminded me of the character in Silence of the Lambs. Did you see that
Oh,
when you read that book? It reminded me.
yes, Buffalo Bill. Yes.
I was like, oh my God, I feel like I hate him as much as I hated Buffalo Bill. Right? And
Well,
I'm a gay woman. It's not because he was gay or because he was dressing up. It was just because he was so horrible.
He was horrible. And he was so horrible to Skip. The things that spewed out of his mouth.
Oh, yeah.
To her. And that's where I'm like, I gave credit to Skip because there is no way I could have, I don't care what the job was. There is no way I could have stood there and taken his verbal abuse because he was, that whole entire dialogue, I'm like, Skip, you are a better person than me.
And then his internal thoughts about her too. He would just say, the author would just tell us everything he was thinking, which made it even worse.
Yes, it was awful. It was awful.
Just
and terrible. I do have to say, I did feel sorry for Marcel. I know that Marcel, she was very flawed too, but I feel sorry for Marcel. I think her promiscuity came from the fact that she did not have the love from her mom.
She didn't feel love.
And,
absolutely. Yeah.
And then I felt so bad for her because she thought she killed her little sister. That's the whole reason why her mom didn't love her, which was awful, And I did like the way Julie kind of unraveled that mystery. I didn't see a lot of that coming, but then I kept saying, well, if she died in the hospital, it's sort of like, why doesn't Marcel know that,
Yeah, it was very confusing there at the end, and I was like, okay, this doesn't make sense because I had thought, and now I may be wrong because I was trying to read, 4 books at one time at one point because of my library loans. Wasn't there a earlier on where they said that LaBelle had worked in his office, or she had been some way connected to as a secretary for Chauncey? Did I dream that?
No, he had a secretary that he ended up getting pregnant.
Okay.
And she was gonna keep the child, and that's how Skip kind of got the whole idea. But LaBelle, I'm sorry, my dog keeps coming in and out.
Don't worry.
LaBelle came to the office to confront him when she found out, and he sent her off packing. So my thing is, that's when I started thinking she's not just a secretary that used to work for him. There's something more to the story. And then I'm thinking, I can't imagine him needing a prostitute. To
Yeah.
me, he's going to use his secretaries like he had been using every time they left. The
Yeah.
whole reason that one secretary left was because she was pregnant,
Yeah. Okay.
and she wanted to keep the baby. That's the one he drugged to make her have the abortion.
Yeah, I remember that part, but for some reason I felt like LaBelle came to us because Skip asked about people that had worked for him, and that's when I felt like,
Well, she
um,
initially thought it. She
yeah,
initially
okay,
thought,
okay,
yes,
that's what it was. So she didn't actually. That's why I was like confused because I thought yeah, I don't understand. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, terrible, terrible, terrible. So
Marcel,
like,
yes, I did feel bad for her, and then just I think she was somewhat not in the shadow with when it came to her dad, but she was definitely in the shadow when it came to her mom and Henry
oh
too.
yeah,
Henry was not kind to her either, really, and so yeah, I think she was looking for somebody to
love
love.
in all the wrong places.
All the wrong, many wrong places. Yeah, yeah,
But I did like the friendship that was developing between Skip and Marcel. And I was
yeah,
really worried that Marcel was going to be the killer. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh no, Skip
yeah,
really
yeah.
trusted her.
I know. I did. I know. I was worried about that too.
Now, Jackie says, what did you think about Skip and Steve's sexual encounter only a couple of hours after Skip was treated for a severe concussion? I'm
Yeah.
like, I thought that was a little over the top, I will
It
say.
was for me too. That was when I was like, "Okay, wait. Now what is happening?" And I have to say, Jackie, and I don't know if you feel this way too. Like I said, I think it was a love letter to New Orleans, and I think that sort of the setting and the way that she, connected all the dots around so many things in the city was great. But I think the way she portrayed these people living in New Orleans was not necessarily very flattering of the people who live in New Orleans. And again, I know she said it in the 90s too, but I mean, I've known people that have lived in New Orleans in the 90s, and they're decent, good people, and they're not,
Well,
behaving.
I think what it is we only had a snapshot of the people that Skip interacted with. And then you've got,
They were all terrible people.
they were all terrible people. And then you've got the people that her parents and the Sanamons
Yeah.
all kind of intermingle with, and they were not very likable characters
No,
either.
no.
So you're looking at a snapshot. But what's crazy about that is like, this is Skip's world. So it really
Yeah.
was like a fishbowl
Yeah. Yeah, that's
kind
true.
of look into Skip's world at that moment. So I really am curious to see how her other books are going to go where she features Skip.
Yeah.
Like, I'm almost wondering if, because you're introduced to so many characters, and if you're introduced to Skip in this one and what she's going through and her parents and all that kind of stuff, I wonder if it gets better as far as the characters.
Yeah, if it broadens out of this group of people she's known since she
Yes.
was a child. Yeah. I could look and see if we get a synopsis of book 2. Let me see. Are you thinking you're going to go on and read more of them?
I do think I am. I do think
Yeah.
I am. Stormy said, didn't read the book, but wanted to pop in and say hi and bop the like button. Thank you, Stormy. We
Well, thank you,
appreciate it.
Stormy. Yeah.
And Jackie totally agrees with what we're talking about with the characters. Yeah. Obviously, you and I lived in New Orleans at some point, and we do not act like these crazy people.
No, you do not. You do
We
not.
just do not. I can tell you that for a fact. And Jackie lived there. We could tell Jackie's not like that.
No.
So let me see what Jordan is saying here. He's saying, no cash, my friend. I've seen the title of this video stream, but I'm saying that because it's morally gray in New Orleans. Yes, I guess you could say that.
But
And
again,
it's
not all over. It's just
yeah,
certain.
not all, in
Yeah.
some respects. I guess if you're like dealing with the mafia or dealing with some of these politically corrupt political people, yes.
Yeah.
And I can say that the NO, what is it? The New Orleans
NOPD.
Police Department,
Mhm.
NOPD,
Mhm.
they've, have been in the news quite often for their, shenanigans. But there are some really great people that live in New Orleans, trust
There
me.
are. Yeah,
And
there are.
Jordan said there's an episode of What's New Scooby-Doo in 2000s, and they actually go to New Orleans when it is actually, I guess, morally gray.
No.
um, and Jordan's telling Jackie hello. So that does that mean he was in the right frame of mind when having sex with another person? No, I don't think so, even though he seemed to want to be.
Yeah.
And that was another thing, just the love at first sight on Steve's part. Like he just was so like enamored with her from the very beginning.
Yeah. Yes, he was like instantly. And that was a
Yes,
little
it's like
surprising.
insta love. And I don't know
Yeah.
if that's really, really true at
Yeah.
all.
No,
So
no.
what are your thoughts about Tolliver?
I probably liked Tolliver more than many of the other characters. I really did. I feel like obviously he had some things he was holding on to, and and he was in the thick of a lot of stuff. But I really, when he was musing over how much he loved her and how much he really thought that they were going to be together, I think I just felt, sort of him and Biddy. I just really felt sort of sorry for Tolliver, and he was very supportive of her, obviously, and the whole
Mhm.
family, and I mean, it was just, yeah, that was really hard for me because I really kind of liked him. How about
I
you?
kind of felt bad for him, and then I was thinking, did somebody
Yeah,
murder him?
right.
Like that was the other
Yeah,
thing. So I kind of was like, that did seem a little believable that he would have taken his life now that we know that something was wrong with him,
right. Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah. But at first, we were not believing that, right? Like it was just, yeah,
no,
yeah, it
no.
was so tragic, and so, yeah, I thought, well, somebody else killed it. You know what I mean? Like I was like, okay, well, he had to have been killed, and this was all engineered, and and all that. But yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, I was just. I think I wanted more of Tolliver than I got too.
Mhm,
You?
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so. I think
yeah,
so, and that was another point that I felt kinda bad for Marcel, is that Marcel, when
yeah,
people would talk about her, like he was saying, like, "Who is she really? I've never really thought about her." And, it was
yeah.
sort of like, Henry hated her, and Biddy was just like she was just there because
Just
all
exist.
Biddy's love had to go to Henry because Chauncey didn't love her. And then it's
Yeah,
almost like, did Chauncey really love Marcel? Or
yeah,
there's a part of me that wants to believe he did, but I
yeah.
don't know.
I
I don't know.
know.
It's just kinda odd.
Their
Hello,
actions were
Queen
wrong with
Victoria.
Yeah, yay!
We're doing fine today. We're just talking about New Orleans Mourning and
Yeah.
talking about Tolliver. I I don't know. I felt the one thing I will say is I did like how Julie Smith pretty much gave everybody a pretty good motive
You did. That is
to
true.
wanting to kill Chauncey. The only thing I could think as to why Marcel would possibly want to kill Chauncey is that she had found out about LaBelle. I mean, she knew about LaBelle, but she didn't
Yeah,
know really about LaBelle. Like she thought
right,
LaBelle had a relationship with her father, but not
right,
quite what it was at that point. So that
right.
was my thing. Is that maybe she found out a little more detail about it, and that was her motive. But then
Yeah,
as I got to know her, I'm like totally ruled her out. The whole time, I really did think it was Henry. That's who I thought it was.
I did too for much of
Most
the
of the
book.
time.
I never really entertained, Biddy's involvement in that, and I really I didn't think it was Marcel. I certainly didn't think it was Tolliver, obviously, either. I mean,
Mhm. Even though he
even
hated Chauncey.
though he hated Chauncey, I didn't sense that he was the one. But yeah, I always kind of felt like it was Henry, which usually if I can't figure out something, and there was a lot of stuff I didn't figure out, but if I can't figure out who's done it, I'm happier than when I do. Like, then it feels like I just want it to be more of a challenge, and I just want to be like, oh my gosh, didn't see that coming, and so yeah, that's when that gets a little bit sticky for me. But yeah,
This
Oh,
book
I've heard
sounds interesting, but didn't get a chance to read it. Reading a cozy mystery called Arsenic and Adobo.
Adobo, and I've heard. So tell us how you feel about that, because I have heard a lot of people, seen a lot of people that have read that. Some people really like it. Some people had a hard time getting into it. I'm curious about Arsenic and Adobo.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I was pretty sure Henry was going to be the killer, and that last encounter that she had with him at his apartment, I think that was the last one. Yeah, I was just like, take him away. Just lock him
Yes.
up. Just take him now, please, God, take him. Oh my goodness. But
Jordan's asking, he didn't read the book either, but is there an audio book version of the book or a Braille version? I can tell you that the only audio book version is either cassette or CD. And our friend Liz at Cultural Cobwebs, she got the cassette version and then went back to her library and got the CD. But with you being in Ireland, Jordan, I would be very surprised if you could get a hold of a copy, an
he's
audio
in
copy.
Ireland, Jordan is?
Jordan lives in Ireland, yes.
Oh wow. That's very interesting.
Yes. So yeah, I don't know. I decided with that, I mean, the thing with the baby, the abortion thing, then making Biddy give up the baby, then I felt
Yeah.
bad about Skip's situation. I was
Yeah.
appalled by all of it.
Yeah.
But I guess I wasn't really surprised because people who are affluent and have tons of money and have tons of connections, they can make things happen or they can make things disappear.
That's
And
true.
honestly, I am more surprised with the fact that they didn't lie to Biddy and kill the baby.
I am too, quite
I
frankly.
really don't even understand why they allowed the baby to stay alive, unless for the fact that because Biddy's father cared about Biddy, I
Yeah.
guess he cared about, like, if ever she wanted to go back and find the baby, which I can't even imagine him wanting her to do that. But in my mind, it, I'm just shocked that they allowed that to happen because
Yeah.
they could have literally taken the baby, said they put it with a family, and then the baby could have died from another type of circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah.
SIDS, pneumonia, a
Sure.
little
Sure.
accident, whatever the case may be. And
Yeah.
then Biddy could have gone on with her life.
Yeah.
So the two things that I'm shocked about is that, did Biddy, because she became an alcoholic, just could never find the strength to want to keep up with the baby? As
Perhaps.
a mother, first of all, I would not have agreed to it.
Yeah.
Secondly, I would have, if I was forced to do it, I would have had to try on the sly
I
to
mean, she
figure
had
out what
means.
happened.
Yeah, she had means to be able to do that. So
She
she could
did.
do
She
that.
did.
And
So,
tolerate
and
her through anything, right? Obviously. So yeah. Yeah.
my thing is if you were going to keep the baby alive, why did you keep the baby alive close? And why didn't you do
I know.
something to make sure that that baby could never figure it out?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that was a little far-fetched. Well, more than a little, I guess. That was pretty far-fetched, I would say. And that was kind of when I was like, okay, I wasn't sure how I was feeling about it all, because I was also not wanting my feelings about these people, their personalities and their way of being, what I didn't want that to influence the right, because I was taking into account the whole of it, right? The writing, the plotting,
Yes, yes.
the setting.
Yeah, because I've seen some people like on Goodreads. I
Mm.
mean, it's got a pretty middle of the range rating. I think it's like a 3.6 something out of 5.
Yeah.
And I did notice a couple of people that gave it a 1 or a 2, saying it was
Yeah.
horrible. Like one person was like, there's not one likable character in the whole entire book. I get that. I
Yeah,
understand that. But
me
if
too.
you kind of understand, like, this is a fishbowl kind of eye view of one person and what this person's dealing with. First of all, she's a police officer. She is
Yeah,
going to deal with sometimes people who are not going to be accepted by a society as,
yeah,
wonderful and perfect.
yeah,
And yes, you are going to have some people with money who are horrible
yeah,
and who sweep things under the rug because they're too worried about their name. I mean, Skip's own parents are social climbers. They don't care what
absolutely.
they have to do. They're ashamed of her. The dad doesn't even talk to her.
Yeah.
So this is Skip's life. And
And
then you put
Chauncey's
on the
whole
track.
goal in life was to be the king of Rex, for heaven's sakes. I mean, not that
Yes.
it's not a big deal for people and they have fun and they enjoy it, but there's a lot that's involved in becoming the king of Rex, right?
And
Like
because
money,
of his
power,
and because of
relationships.
his backstory, he couldn't reveal any of his background,
No,
and so
no.
that's the whole reason why all of this was set into motion. And LaBelle was smart that she was trying to come forward at this point. But guess what? It got her killed in the end. And
Yeah,
I knew for a fact when they could not locate her and she was not coming home, I'm like,
yeah,
they've
me
offed
too.
her. But
Yeah.
then again, how dumb. You could have taken care of that. Now, of course, I
Mhm.
know this is my like intellectual mind saying
Yeah,
we wouldn't have a story, obviously, if
right,
she would
yeah.
have been killed as a baby.
Yeah, yeah,
But my thinking is the fact that it could happen, and it was sort of like Skip was being told, leave it alone.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then when Biddy goes in with her confession, Henry goes in with his confession. Again,
yeah,
Skip is told, leave it alone.
yeah.
And then the end. So very twisty turny, I think, very
Mhm.
like throw you off. I think the reason Biddy agreed to do what she had to do was because she already had talked to her father. She
Yeah,
knew that it wasn't going to be taken any further because of who her father was.
right,
And
yeah.
then oh my God. I thought the ending was awesome in the sense that I wasn't expecting that.
No, it's true. I wasn't either.
But I was so like, poor Skip. What is
No,
this going to mean for her in the future? Is she
I
going to still be
know.
a New Orleans cop? And if so, is she going to be with these people?
That's a good question because I haven't like I just sort of skimmed the synopsis, but we need to look at that. I so that's what I was going to say. I understood and I really started to piece this together, and I think she put the awkward parts about race and ethnicity in there because she wanted us to understand the divide even at that point, right? But the
Mhm.
divide in New Orleans, especially around Mardi Gras, right, has been in. I mean, if you think about it, if any of you know or don't know, the Zulu crew was created because there was no Mardi Gras celebration in place for people of
Right.
color, and they had to parade and celebrate in secret, and they had to they had to hide from the public so that nobody I mean really, and I mean that was a while ago, but not that long ago. I mean honestly, it was and so when you think about it, I really think that part of it and I know some people in the comments were yeah they were not flattering, but I think that to understand Chauncey's discomfort with his ethnicity, I think that was a sort of an maybe that's why she said it in Mardi Gras, and that's why he was
Mhm.
the king of
Mhm.
Rex. Maybe because there was this sort of there's been a divide. There's still a divide for some people, to be honest. I mean, nothing's
Oh, yes.
miraculously better in New Orleans in that regard. It's better, but it's not like
It's not perfect. It's
not
not
perfect.
perfect.
No, no, not at
You
all, and
know?
certainly not in Mississippi. In fact, it's probably worse in Mississippi than it is in Louisiana. But I don't know. It's tricky in both places. But yeah, I was thinking about that earlier today when I was preparing for our time together too. I think that was a significant piece because people of color were not able to celebrate Mardi Gras for a very, very long time.
Right.
And even
Right.
when they were, they had restrictions around it. They had such pushback. They had such a different so I think that gave him, to be able to hide in that space and no one to know. I think that maybe was important to him. Not that Mardi Gras was important to him, but the whole thing. So the whole, you know, um, piece of being respected and honored and, and celebrated in whatever way for having money and having prestige and the title of king of the Mardi Gras. I mean, people take this stuff really seriously.
Yes. Yes. And there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money involved in it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of money for mere peasants like me and you to ride in the
we are the mere peasants. Would you spare a crumb for us?
I have a friend that rode for the first time this year in the Biloxi, Mississippi parade. So again, not a big Mardi Gras parade like New Orleans, but it's fair size. But she had been trying for months to get people to give her beads, because to buy the beads is just like, even just to buy the.
I can only imagine it's probably even tripled what it would normally be because of our economy right now. Between the dues to ride, your costume, your throws, and you have to have a significant amount of throws. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting on a float for a long period of time. So you have to have a lot.
Drinking too much. Yeah, it's a lot. We were in a crew for a long time, and we are no longer in that crew. We went to that parade last night. It's a small crew, though. It's not a terribly expensive one. They give away a lot of money to charity, which a lot of those crews do.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did the riding for a number of years. We did the bead buying and the decorating of the float that we had, which was a golf cart, because ours was a walkable community parade. But it's a lot, and it really, for some people, is a very prestigious feeling. For me, it was just fun, but I never wanted to be or asked to be queen either. So, there was that.
Right. Well, so I think we need to just kind of just decide. So our people in the chats, I know Liz has commented. Jackie, please tell us what you put down as a star rating. We'd really like to know.
I would like
Liz,
to know.
would you continue with this series to find out more about Skip? Jackie, would you find out more? Laurie, you're going to go ahead and continue at least to the second one, right?
I don't know. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to look at the synopsis and the reviews.
So you got to kind of see. I personally will. I don't know if I'll do it anytime soon,
right?
But I do think I would go ahead and give the second book at least a try and see, because I did, like I said, I did like Skip as a character. I mean, some things that she did was a little over the top, risky. But then again, I think about her risky behavior. She was kind of risky growing up. She was kind of risky when she was in San Francisco.
True.
I think that's part of like her personality. I think she pushes the envelope. I think she likes to be extreme. I think part of it is, what does she have really to lose kind of thing, because she doesn't seem to feel like she has a lot going for her. Things may change in that department because now she has Steve, and I think she and Steve are going to stay together. I kind of like the relationship. It's sweet, but I mean, it's kind of weird, but it's sweet at the same time. I just like how he adores her, and she hasn't ever experienced anything like that. So if they could end up really, and I'm curious to see, I really am curious to see, because I know this happens a lot of times with a first book in a series. It takes an author time to find their rhythm with writing characters.
Absolutely.
And so I think that in a series like Patricia Cornwell, for example, when you're first introduced to Kay Scarpetta, there's things about Kay that it's
awkward to reading it now, isn't it? Yes.
Yes. But the thing about it is, as a character, I love her character, even though sometimes she doesn't make the best decisions, but I like her world. And so I'm wondering if that will change with the next book. So
I think
while there were things, I'm going to hold my rating until we see what everybody else's are. And you can do the same thing, Laurie. So you're kind of on the fence on if you're going to do it or not. And let's see what Liz says.
I feel like they will get better. I feel like it was written, I thought it was written very well. I thought there was some awkward language every now and again. And she threw in a word, at one point, I sent it to my friend because I was like, I don't think anyone has ever used this word in a novel before, and I can't remember.
Well, there was. I did mark one spot when she was trying to get this person.
Yeah.
It was Jewel Dean.
Yes, Julie.
I just thought this was funny.
Yeah.
It said, "Look what you done, Miss Cop Ass." Because Jewel Dean just lost her person that she was gonna,
Right.
she's a prostitute or whatever.
Right.
But
Right.
look what you've done, Miss Cop Ass. Maybe you don't care. I got a baby to feed. I ain't had a trick all night, and you got any idea what you just cost me? And then the way that Skip answers, maybe you haven't heard, Miss Ass for sale, but prostitution's still illegal. Now calm down and cooperate, okay? And maybe I won't follow you when you go back out and bust you for soliciting. What's your name? I'm just
I
like,
know.
the fact that Skip can be fast with what she's going to answer, and she doesn't take take a lot of lip from people, is amazing to me.
Yeah, yeah. And what I think I don't want anyone to forget either who's really considering this series and considering this author, because again, she's a lovely person, and I I think she deserves whatever she's received as a result of all the things that she's written. This won the Edgar Allan Poe Award.
Yes. So
And you wouldn't
you have to
absolutely.
put in perspective that this was awarded at a time at that time. I mean,
Yeah.
it clearly didn't get the award today,
No,
but it
but at that
showed
time,
some merit. So it is, the writing itself, I think, was good. I mean, there's
yes,
some
I did too.
awkwardness
I
and
did
some
too.
dialogue, that I'm like, okay, but compared to some things that, like when you watch movies and TV shows set in New Orleans, a lot of times everybody's called Cher, and people do
Yeah,
not go
that's
around
true.
New Orleans talking like that. I mean, I just
That's
will tell you.
yeah, that's true.
Um,
Yeah.
so getting to Liz's comment, she says, I've been going back and forth, but I think I've settled on a 2. Lots of dislikes, but I
Yeah.
appreciated the ending with Skip and the corruption revelation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do think that right there
Yeah.
was a big, big thing.
Yes,
And I did
indeed.
feel for Skip, at the end. And like I said, I liked Skip. Let's see what
Yeah.
I think Jackie said, this is an interesting statement in Publisher's Weekly Review. Female rookie cop Skip Langdon uncovers a cast of intriguing characters, all as much Chauncey's victims as they are suspects in his murder, most of them inhabiting a poison garden of corruption and substance abuse, where it's not just on Mardi Gras that everyone wears a mask.
That's very well written.
I love that, Jackie.
Indeed.
Thanks so much for sharing that. I need to know, Jackie, what is your rating on this?
Yes, let us. Oh, she does tell us. She tells us at the end, right after that. Yeah.
So Jackie says, I gave this book 3 stars. It was an average story. I don't think I will continue with the Skip series. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah, no,
And
that's
then
good.
Liz says, I won't continue with the series, but it has made me interested in reading other Edgar Award winners from this
Oh,
period.
yeah.
Very nice. Liz is very much an academic.
Yeah, sure.
And
Yeah.
so I could see her doing a deep dive with that. But I like that, Liz. I'm going to write that down,
Yeah.
because
I
I
would
would
be
be curious, because
I
isn't
would,
didn't it, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know, Laurie, you've read Patricia Cornwell. Didn't
yeah.
Kay Scarpetta win an Edgar?
She
And
may
was
have.
it?
She may have. She's won several awards, I would say.
And I'm curious if it was around one of her first ones, because if it was, you're looking at a time period around that same time, I'm pretty sure.
All right, I put in I put in Kay Scarpetta instead of Patricia Cornwell. Let me see. I'll figure that out. Unless somebody else gets to it before me.
Okay, so I love that. While we're waiting here, Froggy, aka Carly's in the house, just popping in to say hello. This is our friend that's in Australia. She's been doing a lot of traveling. Hello, Amal, participating in Folklore February with a few books and listening to the last. Is it? I know what this is. Quinista.
Quintista?
Quinquista. I can't say it. I can't say it. Yay, Amal. I love that.
Yes, Patricia Cornwell won the Edgar Award. Now it's called the Edgar Award, but for Postmortem. So yes, the very first
Postmortem,
one,
that was her first book. When was it published?
Popular. 91.
Okay. So Liz, that's the first one. If you have not read Postmortem by Kay Scarpetta, and then think about it, there was a lot of sexism in that book. She had a lot of issues in that book because she was just became the medical examiner. There was a lot
Yeah,
of issues, and that actually comes back up in Autopsy.
yeah,
Makes like a
yeah.
full circle when she comes back, just to say. I've read all of her books except
No, I
the
have not,
last
but
one.
I quit when I lost them all in Katrina. So I quit because I was just like, it just, I was just so grieving over all the loss. And then I decided recently to go back and start them again because it had been so long now. There's so many that came out since then. So I've been collecting them little by little by little. And so I finished Postmortem again not long ago. And so now I guess this is the second one, The Body Farm. I can't even remember now.
I think it is. It might
Yeah,
be.
yeah. So I'm gonna, but yeah, it was so awkward, and I forgot like how young her niece was, and that
Yes.
whole relationship with the mother, and yeah. So I was glad I went back because I would have forgotten so much. But
So Jackie thinks also, Liz, that your idea for the
it
Edgar
is a
Award
great idea.
winners, yeah, that
Yeah.
I
So
think that is a good idea. I didn't
yeah,
want to skip over. Queen Victoria was asking if we were going to be reading romance books tomorrow for Valentine's
that's a good
Day.
question.
Actually, I don't know because I will be reading. I'm actually reading some middle grade right now. I don't think I'll be reading any romance,
Well, I
specifically
will
for
be.
that, unless it's in one of my folklore fairy tale stories that I pick up. And then
Yeah.
Jordan says, I take it that you guys love this book because you talk about it so amateur. Please, it's good. It's exciting. Okay.
So yeah, so I am gonna read. I am reading a romance novel at the moment. Well, I'm listening. My son would smack me by saying he would literally smack me, but by saying that I'm reading a book because he says you can't say you're reading a book when you listen to an audiobook, but I am.
Oh, that's incorrect. That's
I know.
incorrect because
I know.
Goodreads counts it because you
Yes.
can put audiobook
Yes, you
down.
can. And look, I'm telling you, when I tell you that the 4-year-old that's in the other room is stubborn, he gets that from his daddy, but he may also get it from me. Anyway, I'm listening to this. You have to listen to this one. I just know you do. I think it was meant to be listened to. I'm listening to Thank You for Listening, which is narrated and written by not Julie Whalen. What's her name? Help me, everybody. I just lost what totally. Let me go to my Libro and look. Julia Whalen. Yes. And Julia Whalen narrates tons of audiobooks. This is what she's been doing this for years. She narrated all the Emily Henrys, a lot of romance she's narrated. I just heard the other day that she's narrating The Women by Kristen Hanna, which
Oh,
now makes
wow.
me, yes, thank you, Jackie, which now makes me want to listen to The Women, even though I just bought it. But I think narrating your own audiobook, which is about a woman who narrates audiobooks, is the most
Right.
meta thing I have ever noticed in my life. And so I'm going to try to finish it tomorrow. I love it.
Well, very good.
It
Good.
makes
So
so
I
much
guess that's
fun.
going to be a 5 star for you then. That's
It
going to be
may
a 5
be.
star.
It totally makes fun of romance tropes, which I love because I'm not a romance reader regularly, but I'm trying to give it more space. It's just hilarious. It is just hilarious. So yeah, I that's what I'm
Okay.
gonna try to finish tomorrow. Yes.
That sounds good. Like I said, I'm doing a middle grade book that I need to finish for my 5 star prediction. And then I've got some folklore. I've got a book club pick I have to finish by Friday.
Yeah, I
So
know.
that's what I'm going to be doing for sprints for sure.
Yeah.
So unless there's some romance that's mixed in with any of the fairy tales that I'm reading, that's about as romantic as I'm going to get.
Yeah. I guess there
So what was your star rating, Lori?
So for a while, I was holding on to a 2.5. To be honest, at first I was like all in, and then I was like, oh, I don't know. And again, I was trying to just look at the writing, but there were a couple of things, some word choices, just some things that were a little over the top now and again. And so I settled though as I reviewed it all, as I thought about it when I finally finished, and the way that it ended, and just kind of noticing the writing that was really, again, very very well done. Many, many times I was like, wow, she really crafted a sentence there that a lot of people in mysteries
Right.
like these would not have done. So I think that the writing itself rose it to or raised it to. That was a terrible sentence, to a 3 from me. So I'm giving it a 3-star, which it
Yeah.
looks like is pretty much the average for that.
Well, my thing is I've been thinking of a 3.5 was my rating, rounded down to a 3. So like if you see it on Goodreads, it'll have a 3.5, but 3 will be, instead of me going up, I'll be going down.
And that's
so
funny.
which
We
I think
all kind of landed around the same way, I would say, except for 2 of my friends who said they DNF'd it. But I get it. You know, I really, really do. I will say that, the second book does have about the same rating in terms of numbers. It is called, if you're curious, it's called Axeman's Jazz. And it is also set around the same time. I think there's a guy in a 12-step program, so apparently there's still a lot of drinking happening in New Orleans. Don't get me wrong, a lot of drinking happens in New Orleans, but
yes, there is.
I mean, it does. But and Skip is still in it, and I don't want to give any spoilers away about what she's doing currently, but it looks like, I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. I might. I'm curious if it's as hard to find as this one was. This one was a little harder for me to
I'm gonna have to, when I go back to Friends of the Library, there were some Julie Smiths there. So I'm gonna just see if they have it. It might be the kind of thing that if I find it, you can't find a copy. I can, if I do find it, I can read it and then send it to you.
Oh yeah, perfect.
That
okay.
kind of thing.
So,
I'm gonna go with the 3.5. That was like my gut, even though hearing it, but after the discussion, and also one other thing, I did think it was a little tad bit too long. There were some parts that could have been tightened up a little bit. I didn't think it had to be quite as long. So that's kind of like all of what we talked about today, because I was kind of on the fence. Am I going to round up or am I going to round down? So after talking with everyone here, talking to you, Laurie, I'm going to go with the 3.5, but rounding down to a 3 on Goodreads.
Yeah, I think that's
Thank you so much, Alicia, for being here. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. Yes, Jackie agrees it was a little too long. I'm sure Liz would probably agree with that, as also needed more editing. Yes,
I think it was self-published too. So that may have been, that was what one of my friends said, was it self-published? I think it may have been self-published. And that may be, so it may be that no one did really edit it. Although I think she updated it at the end
Ivy
of
Books.
She said,
who did yours? Ivy Books was who published. Oh no, I'm sorry. Ivy Books published by Ballantine Books.
Mine is Books Be Nimble in New Orleans, which I think is her company. So, but this was the updated version, which was 2012. Although I don't know that she edited a whole lot, but
she might not have edited more off of it. How many pages is yours?
Mine is 429, which was, it was longer than I anticipated when I ordered it.
Mine was 339.
Oh yeah, so she may have added some even to mine. But here's what she says, if you're curious at the end. This is a vintage book, almost 30 years young as I write this. So the question in bringing it into the 21st century was how to update it. I opted against giving everyone cell phones, since I think one of the points of a mystery series is to serve as a record of life in the time it was written and the place it was. But I couldn't resist a bit of light editing what author could. So that was what she said about it. But
so I do like when they keep things in the time period. I've noticed Lois Duncan, she's a middle grade YA author. She's updated some of her books to be more current for like young readers today. And I was kind of disappointed with that, because that's the whole point of it being set in the time that it is. And so the copy that I have of like I Know What You Did Last Summer and Killing Mr. Griffin, those have been updated. And I'm just like,
well, the Agatha Christie's, there was a video, I think it was, who was it, posted, and I haven't watched her video yet. So, but she does it's Leandra and the TBR-a-thon, or Leandra and the TBR or something to zero. She was actually doing a video the other day, and I do want to listen and watch it, about censoring. But the Agatha Christie books in the time and the place where they were published in England, terrible racism in those first books. And in the US, they were published with, kind of saturating some of that language. And that, when I found this out, because I read Agatha Christie as a child in the US version, so I never saw any of that until I was older. and it broke my heart. Like I was just, I can't tell you how wrecked I was by that,
Yeah, I'm
knowing
glad
that
I haven't read any versions of that because I think I would be like, please no, because
I
I love
was
Agatha
like,
Christie's book.
and the names of some of the books that they changed, over
Oh
the
yeah,
years.
yeah. I
As
knew
they
about one in particular.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And so I was so clueless as a 9, 10, 11-year old when my sister pressed those into my hands. And but she was born in a different time in a different place. And so it's
Right.
not that I'm excusing that in any way, but it does help me to understand a little bit of why she would have said and done those things and written those things, but it still is hard for me. I have to admit.
Well, yeah, I will. They do mention that in her biography,
Yeah, yeah.
Agatha Christie, An Elusive Woman by Lucy Worsley. So
Mm,
I know that it's out there. So I'm like, I'm glad I
yeah.
don't have a version of that. Well, and if I do, like I have picked up some older books. I'll have to look at publication dates to see,
Yeah, yeah. I
But
just happened upon one copy that I think I got from Blackwell's, or the one I used to order from that's no longer in business and in the UK, and that's when it happened to me, and I was just, yeah, so
shocked.
shocked, yes, and heartbroken.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but this is definitely a period piece. There's no question
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that.
Jackie said hers was published by St. Martin's Press, which I do think
Oh,
is New
okay.
Orleans
Well,
Press.
then, yeah, I think
Liz said it was 12 CDs, way too long.
yeah,
But I'm glad you
bless
stuck
your
with it,
heart.
Liz. The
I was gonna
fact that
say
you didn't
thank you
DNF
all.
it,
Yeah,
I'm excited that you didn't.
yeah,
And I guess I owe you one.
yeah,
And then Jackie said Edgar Awards list St. Martin's Press as publisher in 1991. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Well,
So,
now
I mean, you never know when you pick a book
you
sometimes,
do not
how
know.
it's going to be when you do it. But I want to say, thank you very much to you, Laurie, for inviting me to be a part
Well,
of
thank
this Mardi Gras
you.
Readathon. And I
Thank
want
you.
to thank everyone who picked up, New
Yeah.
Orleans Mourning, those of you that came to hang out with us, for the live show, those of you that will be watching the live show after the fact. I do appreciate that very much, because I
Me
know some
too.
people couldn't be here today, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. As far as some people are going to like it, some people not. For the
Yeah,
most
I'm
part, I think
glad
it was
I read it.
an
Yeah.
average read.
That's right,
For
and I'm
people.
glad I read it. I'm glad I read it because, again, I've met her, and I wanted to support her, but also it was just an important, read for me in the sense of understanding kind of, what motivated this character, and the writing, and the Edgar Allan Poe Award, and just all of that. Like I'm really glad that I ended up getting it and reading it.
Yeah,
So
me
yeah,
too.
no
Me too.
regrets. Yeah,
No regrets, that's for sure.
yeah.
Okay, well, thank y'all for being here, everyone. We really
Indeed.
appreciate you.
Yeah,
And as always, I say to stay amazing and to be adventurous. And
absolutely.
until our paths cross again, our paths could cross tomorrow if y'all decide to come to Sprints.
I was gonna
Thank you
say,
so much, Liz, for
thank you,
participating. We
Liz. Thank
appreciate
you,
you.
Jackie.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here,
It was
Jackie and
so
Liz, and everyone
much.
else that came into our chat. And as
Yeah.
I said, we'll see y'all
We'll
later.
see you
What
soon.
is it?
Happy
Let the good times roll and happy
That's
Mardi Gras.
right. Happy Mardi Gras, what's left of it.